Hi there, my name's Michael and welcome to Tabletop-Infiltrator. Today we'll be continuing to look at the progress that I've made on my custom Space Marine chapter, the Redeemers. So in my last video I showed you my first unit that I painted up, which was a 5-man tactical squad armed with a las cannon. If you haven't seen that video, I've put a link to it in the description below, so go check it out. And over the last week I've painted up my second tactical squad. This is armed with a las cannon as well and was painted up in exactly the same way as the first squad. The only difference was the sergeant, who was modelled with a different head and armed with a bolter and a chainsword. I also started building and painting my 10-man Primaris Infiltrator squad, and they got those finished up yesterday. So let's jump in and let's have a look how they turned out. And here they are. This is my 10-man squad of Primaris Infiltrators. All the models are armed with the Marksman bolt carbine, with one Marine equipped with the Infiltrator comms array. Now, the paints that I used on them were a Chaos Black rattle can to do the initial base coat. I then used my airbrush and did a second base coat in heavy blue over the entire model. Beastie Brown was used on the holsters, the strapping and the pouches. Lead Belcher Silver was used on the armour joints, the backpack exhausts, grenades, the carbine itself, the sensor antennae and the grips on the pistols. They're actually inside the holsters. I then used Black Templar contrast to darken the joints and tidy up the carbines. Now, I wanted to darken the joints because they are infiltrators, so I didn't want anything shiny giving away their position. Balthazar Gold was used on the small skull icon on the chest plate and actually the bolt rounds that you can see in the magazines on the carbines. I then gave the model an entire wash in non-oil and then used the base colours to tidy up any areas of pooling. I used Gory Red, Bloody Red and White Scar on the sight lenses of the carbines, with Bloody Red and White Scar also being used on the helmet lenses of the Marines themselves. For the Sergeant's head I used Gory Red along the bottom, and then for his skin I firstly used a very thin down layer of Cold Grey and then used Cadian Flesh Tone over the top of that. His mohawk I used Beastie Brown and then gave him a wash with non-oil and then tidied up again using the base colours. I also used Gory Red on the casings of his bolt pistol. The bases and all the models I just used sand from the beach, stuck down with PVA glue and covered it using flesh wash. Some of the Marines are standing on rocks, and those rocks were painted in Cold Grey and then just given a wash with non-oil and then tidied up again with the base colour. These guys were awesome to build up and paint. I usually get really worn out with doing a 10-man squad, but with the easy paint scheme the process was really quick and I really enjoyed it. Let's now have a look at their datasheet and see how I plan to use them on the tabletop. Here is the Infiltrator squad's datasheet. They are a troop's choice. You can have a squad between 5 to 10 models and they are 25 points per model. They are movement 6, weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 4, toughness 4, 2 wounds, 2 attacks on the standard marine and 3 on the sergeant, leadership 7 and 8 with a 3+ save. Every model is equipped with a bolt pistol, marksman bolt carbine, frag grenades and crack grenades. The bolt pistol has a standard profile for a pistol, range 12, pistol 1, strength 4, AP 0 and damage 1. The marksman bolt carbine is range 24, rapid fire 1, strength 4, AP 0 and damage 1. So similar to a standard Adeptus Astartes bolter. However, it has an ability that each time an attack is made with this weapon, an unmodified hit roll of 6 automatically wounds the target. Now I think that's really good, especially if you've got a larger squad, which is what I'm going for. They also have some upgrade options, so you can give them either a Helix Gauntlet or an Infiltrator comms array. The Helix Gauntlet is once per turn, the first saving throw that is failed for the bearer's unit, the damage characteristic of that attack is changed to 0. So that's pretty good against large damage weapons like a las cannon or something like that. If your opponent was to roll a d6 of say 6 damage, you could use that as long as it was the first attack to change that down to 0. That is a slight difference from the previous edition, where the Heat-Lit Gauntlet actually acted almost as a apothecary, putting wounds back onto models. The Infiltrator comms array is actually the upgrade I've gone for the squad. So the bearer's unit is always considered to be within range of the following aura abilities of any friendly chapter Phobos units that are on the battlefield that have rites of battle and tactical precision. So you've probably guessed that I'll either need a captain or a lieutenant on the battlefield to make use of that. Their abilities as well, they have Angels of Death, Combat Squads, Concealed Positions. So if we have a look at their abilities, they get Angels of Death, and They Shall Know No Fear, Bolter Discipline, Shock Assault, and access to all the combat doctrines. They also have Concealed Positions. So Vanguard forces often infiltrate the battlefield ahead of the main advance, taking up forward positions to ambush their foe. During the deployment, when you set this unit up, if every model in this unit has this ability, then it can be set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from the enemy deployment zone and enemy models. They are also equipped with Omni Scramblers, which means that enemy units that are set up on the battlefield as reinforcements cannot be set up within 12 inches of this unit. The keywords for the squad are Imperium, Adaptus Astartes, Infantry, Core, Primaris, Phobos, Smokescreen, and Infiltrator Squad. So looking at points costs for the unit, you're looking at 24 points per model, with the Infiltrator comms array upgrade being 5 points. So for a 10-man squad, you're looking at 245 points. Now that's quite a lot for a troops choice, but I think that's mitigated by the abilities that the Infiltrator squad has. What I find really useful is the Concealed Positions and Omni Scrambler ability. This will allow my squad to be deployed further up the table, and will also disrupt my opponent's ability to bring in their deep strikers or outflankers, which is incredibly useful in 9th edition, as I think board control is essential for winning a game. There are quite a few stratagems that could potentially help them out, so let's have a look at those. The first one is Smokescreen. So use this stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase when an Adaptus Astartes Smokescreen unit from your army is selected as a target of an attack. Until the end of that phase, each time an attack is made against that unit, subtract 1 from that attack's hit roll. So basically -1 to hit. Which if the squad is being deployed higher up the table, say mid-board, they're going to be targeted first, and that will just give them a little bit more protection. Next is Transhuman Physiology. Now, like I said in my previous video, the way that Games Workshop seem to be defining Firstborn and Primaris is more on the stratagem side. A lot of stratagems that could be used for Firstborn are now Primaris only, and Transhuman is one of them. So use this stratagem in your shooting phase, or in any phase when a Primaris unit from your army is selected as an attack. Until the end of that phase, each time an attack is made against that unit, an unmodified wound roll of 1 to 3 for that attack fails, irrespective of any abilities that weapon or model making the attack may have. If that unit contains 5 or fewer models, this strat costs 1 CP, otherwise it costs 2 CP. So really useful again, combined maybe with Smokescreen if they're starting higher up on the board and you just want to give them that little bit more protection. It is quite costly because they are a 10-man squad. It will cost 2 command points, but I think if you really want to frustrate your opponent by having a unit right up in front of them from turn 1, I think that's a really good combination. Next we have Guerrilla Tactics. Now, This one I'm going to need some help with, maybe in the comment section, because I've been having a look at the rules. So use this stratagem in your movement phase when a Phobos unit from your army that is more than 6 inches away from an enemy model is selected to move. If this mission you are playing in is using strategic reserves rule, place that unit into strategic reserves. So say it's the beginning of your movement phase and you can see that the enemy army is moving around to engage your infiltrator squad. And if they're more than 6 inches away, you can play this for 1 command point and basically pick that unit up and put them into strategic reserve. Now, what my question is strategic reserves come on at the end of your movement phase. So, So if I put them into strategic reserve, and then you go onto the reinforcement step of your movement phase, can you then bring in that squad straight away on the same turn? So if they're on the left hand flank, you take them off, and then in your reinforcement step, you can then move them, say, onto your right hand flank. Now, it's not clear whether or not you can do that. I don't want to be that guy who does that, but it's just it's an interesting one. So yeah, comment below if you know the answer to that. Here we have uncompromising fire. This is 2 command points, so use the stratagem in your shooting phase. Select one Adaptus Astartes infantry unit from your army that is performing an action. That unit can shoot this phase without that action failing. So again, it's quite pricey at 2 command points. However, if the squad has deployed mid-board and it's already on an objective, and say one of my secondaries is raise the banners, if there is an enemy unit that I really need to shoot at, then this will allow me to do that without the action failing. So yes, quite costly, but it's something that you might not be using all the time. Adapter strategy. So use this stratagem in your command phase. If a chapter warlord from your army is on the battlefield and a combat doctrine is active for your army, select one chapter core unit from your army that is on the battlefield until the start of your next command phase. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack, the Devastator doctrine, Tactical doctrine and Assault doctrine are considered to be active for that attack. So say I get first turn, I've deployed my 10-man squad mid-board, and I want to send off a load of shots into the enemy. For 2 command points, I can put them in Tactical doctrine, which will mean the bolt will be firing at AP -1. So combined, you'll have AP -1, 6s automatically wounding the target, and if I've got a captain in Phobos armor on the battlefield with the Infiltrator comms array, I'll be re-rolling 1s, and the same if I have a lieutenant. So really useful, but again costly at 2 command points. Steady advance. So use this stratagem in your movement phase when an Adaptus Astartes infantry unit from your army makes a normal move. Until the end of the turn, that unit is considered to have remained stationary. So again costly at 2 command points. Might not use this one this often because the squad is going to be starting upfield, so I may not need to move. So that one, yeah, maybe that one. When it comes to actually how I'm going to use the squad on the tabletop, I am no expert on the nuances of fighting on the tabletop. So what I'm really going to be concentrating on is playing the mission, the primary points, and trying to get as many secondaries as I can. So like I said, I'm going to have 2 10-man squads, and by starting as high up as on the board as possible, you're denying that ball control to your opponent and really holding them back for as long as you can. Now with 2 squads of 10, you're looking at 40 wounds. Now I know there are a lot of damage to weapons out there now, but that still is a lot of wounds to get through. And if you can build up a lead over your opponent on primaries and some secondaries, by the time they've wiped out that squad, my support units would have moved up the board, and that's then another wave for your opponent to get through. Or you've built up such a commanding lead that by the time your opponent has wiped out your squads and dealt with the reinforcements moving up, hopefully you've got enough of a lead that they're not able to claw it back. So that's what I'm thinking with this Infiltrator squad. If you think I've got this completely wrong, please comment below. I'd be really interested to hear everyone's thoughts on the matter, but I do think that they are a really good unit to include in my army. Looking at my army now, I have 3 troop choices, which is the minimum requirement for a single battalion detachment. I now need a HQ, which is going to be a captain in Phobos armor. I really like the look of the model, and I think it's going to fit in really well with the theme I'm trying to go for. My thinking with Marines is that they are really a surgical knife. They're not the blunt instrument that the Militarum is often used as. So my thinking is that the Infiltrators will move in, they'll scout ahead of the main force, reporting on strong points and key individuals that need to be taken out. The Space Marine force will then move in and use its superior firepower and close combat potential to fight a decisive battle and end a campaign quickly. And that's what I want to reflect in my own army, that ability to move forward, scout ahead, and then hit hard. That's it from me for another week. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider giving me a thumbs up and a share. And if you want to support the channel, hit that subscribe button. It really does help me out. And again, the comments section below, any hints and tips for myself and the development of my Space Marine chapter, The Redeemers, will be really appreciated. And hopefully I'll see you next time.